Ukrainian President Volodmyr Zelenskyy has arrived in Athens for the first stop on a European tour to shore up continued support for his country. He's in Greece to finalize an agreement on much-needed gas imports as Ukraine heads into its fourth full winter at war. Speaking on Sunday morning, the Finnish President Alexander Stubb said he doesn't think a ceasefire is likely before spring, and it's imperative that Europe maintain support for Ukraine. President Zelenskyy stressed how important this gas deal with Greece is for Ukraine.
We are not wasting a single day for our country and have already prepared an agreement with Greece on gas for Ukraine. This will be another source of gas to secure import routes for the winter as much as possible. We already have agreements on financing gas imports, and we will cover the need for almost 2 billion euros of gas to compensate for the losses of Ukrainian production due to Russian strikes.
For more, let's bring in Alberto Rizzi. He is a policy fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations with a focus on geoeconomics and joins us now from Rome. Alberto, give us some perspective. How critical is this trip for Zelenskyy and the Ukrainian people?
This deal is absolutely crucial for Ukraine because the country has lost roughly half of its domestic gas production under the relentless attacks by Russia. And in order to spend a winter without putting Ukrainians in the cold and the dark, as Putin would like to, diversifying its supply and securing new volumes from the Greece port of Alexandroupolis would be absolutely essential, both in terms of route diversification as well as in terms of new volumes coming into the country from the US, from Qatar, from Egypt, in order to shore up the gas consumption of the country as well as its reserves. Ukraine has already started depleting parts of its reserves in order to compensate from the loss of production at home.
Okay, so going into its reserves already. Let's dig a little deeper into that. Kyiv is clearly leaning on a number of allies to help provide gas. Can those partners actually deliver what Ukraine needs, or will it still need to rely in some significant measure on its domestic production, which of course is under threat from Russian attacks?
Well, this depends on the allies we're talking about, because the imports from Greece primarily come from the US and Qatar, which are secure sources of imports. There's little doubt about the capacity to provide the volumes that Ukraine needs. If you're turning to Egypt, that is a more complex situation because the country has structural difficulties because of depleting and aging gas fields that now produce less and less, and the rising domestic consumption, which makes it more difficult to export energy to Europe and from there to Ukraine. If we talk Azerbaijan, the country already sells gas to Ukraine, and despite the volumes that are relatively small, it provides key strategic depth and diversification to Kyiv. But it would be difficult to increase rapidly those volumes because Baku already is importing a small quantity of Russian gas in order to cover domestic consumption and free up its own gas, and it's therefore exported to Europe, Ukraine included. So in this complex landscape, any external supply is absolutely important to Ukraine, but maintaining a certain level of domestic production would be essential as well. And here, it's the second part of the Zelenskyy trip that is more important, which is the visit to France, where it would be discussing air security as well as air defense capabilities, which are essential to protect Ukraine's own gas fields from Russian attacks.
Right. Alberto, as you well know, for quite some time, Ukraine was essential for the delivery of Russian natural gas to Europe. Those deliveries stopped earlier this year. Where does that leave the European energy sector?
It leaves the energy sector with a completely different map. The flows are not anymore from east to west, but now it's from west to Europe, and that would be US LNG. From the north, gas from Norway. And from the south, so we're talking Middle East, Gulf, and also Africa. And we have to say that the European energy sector has been remarkably rapid and effective in substituting all those Russian gas with unhedged energy sources in just 3 years, which in energy terms is extremely fast. But this has meant often importing more expensive LNG and undergoing in each country structural changes. Here, two dynamics are important for the future. It would be Europe's own drive for efficiency in the medium term, as well as the global oversupply to which the LNG market is going, which means less price pressure on European industrial players.
Okay. That's Alberto Rizzi with the European Council on Foreign Relations. Many thanks to you, sir.
Thank you.